It's been a little more than a week since the midterm election. Some states still waiting on results, but here in Texas, we have had some time to take a look at what the new, or in some cases not so new, political landscape now looks like. So let's talk about that with somebody who knows it well. Scott Braddock, the editor of the Quorum Report, deeply entrenched in Texas politics. Scott, always a pleasure to have you here.
Deeply entrenched, sometimes for good and sometimes for bad. Good to see you.
Well, we appreciate your role there. Give us an overview of how you would characterize the election results from a week ago.
You know, a Republican friend of mine said it very well the other day. He said, even though there might be a lot of people who are sort of surprised by the result in Texas, when you didn't have a red wave across the country, right, that did not materialize. But in Texas, Republicans ran the table. But it really is just a normal midterm election in Texas when there's a Democrat in the White House that you have Republicans winning statewide and winning legislative seats in a legislative majority, which is what we expected. It seems surprising to people because we're kind of getting back to normal. In 2016, we sort of left normal land when it comes to politics, and we haven't quite gotten back to it until just now. And interesting, all across the country, I've been wondering if this wasn't just President Biden's midterm, but also President Trump's midterm, because, of course, usually the former president sort of goes away, rides off into the sunset. But, of course, he just announced for president again last night. And I think that the fact that he has been so much a part of American life day to day meant that it evened the playing field for Republicans and Democrats, because it was kind of Trump and Biden's midterm for both of them.
Let's turn the page now and talk about the legislature. Coming up, new session. What do you expect are going to be some of the priorities that you're going to see from Republican leadership?
This week started the pre-filing of legislation, so every one of the ideas that's been proposed is fantastic. Of course, I'm kidding. There are good ideas, bad ideas, silly ideas, some things that are just political theater, and you'll see a lot of that during the legislative session. It's what always happens. The Speaker and the Lieutenant Governor, who run the House and, of course, the Senate, they will set aside what they call the priority bill numbers. So in the House, there will be 20 priorities, it looks like, and in the Senate, there'll be 30 priorities. We don't know exactly what those are yet, but I can tell you what some of the chatter has been based on both, things I'm just hearing, also things that have been said on the campaign trail by Governor Abbott and some of our other statewide officials. One, and I've got the list for you here, property taxes. They will do something on that, and that's something that the governor has said will be a priority for what to do with the huge budget surplus that we expect to see in Austin. Could be as much as about $30 to $40 billion if you count what's in the state savings account, the rainy day fund. Also, immigration and border security, they will probably spend more on that because Republican primary voters think that the state is never spending enough on it. And one thing that I've heard that's interesting and maybe sort of out of left or really right field is district attorney reform, which the House and Senate may tackle. And that would have to do with creating recall elections for what Republicans call liberal district attorneys and judges.
Let's talk about school finance. You've talked about, obviously, the connection between school funding and property taxes. We have heard well before this election from district leaders here about the imperfections in the way that schools are currently funded, even with that $30 to $40 billion excess at the state level. Do you think that changing the structure of public school financing could be a big hurdle in this next session?
It's interesting. In 2019, I'm sure the two of you remember, and plenty of your viewers do as well, that the heavy lift at the Capitol that was done in that legislative session a few years ago was reform of the school finance system and reform of property taxes in this state so that they better work in concert with each other to try to contain people's property taxes. And remember, Republican leadership bragged about it nonstop, that they were going to offer property tax relief and fully fund Texas public schools. I was talking with a Republican lawmaker just a couple weeks ago, one of the retiring members, Dan Huberty, who is from Houston, and he was the public education chairman a few sessions ago when that was passed. And he said, look, what was done in 19 sets the state up perfectly for what we're about to see, which is a huge budget surplus. And what lawmakers should do if they want to fund schools and contain property taxes for people, compress those property taxes, is put some of that huge surplus into the school funding formulas, paying for public education, is an obligation of the state. And you know, and your viewers know, that when you get that property tax bill, the biggest line item is your ISD, your school district. And so if the state picks up more of that cost, the local taxpayer doesn't have to pick up as much of it or isn't asked to pick up more of it. So that's the first thing they should do. But I would always expect that when it comes to property taxes, this is what we've seen time and again with the current leadership, is that there will be some sort of gimmick that will be floated. For example, in the last legislative session, Republican lawmakers considered sending everybody $500 checks as a rebate for their property taxes. But when they realized that that would be taxable income in and of itself, well, that idea went away.
Talk about legalized gambling. We've seen other states do it. States right on our borders are doing full-out gambling in Oklahoma and Louisiana. Do you see Texas making a move anyway towards some type of gambling?
Governor Abbott did open the door just a little bit to that during an interview right before the election. He said that for casino gaming, what he would like to see, and that would be full-on casino gambling in major metro areas, potentially in San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth as well. He would like to see something that would be, quote, professionally run. I think what he meant is, if people are familiar with the Las Vegas Strip, I think he means more like the Wynn and the Encore than Harrah's up the street. He wants to see something that, is a luxury resort kind of thing, and not just, casinos on every corner like they have in Oklahoma, where you can gamble right in the gas station. He doesn't want to see that. Something I have heard that might be a baby step toward that, and I think that you and your viewers would be interested in, is sports betting. I'm hearing a lot about it right now that makes me think that and you'll want to watch quorumreport.com for this. I think that there are some rumblings out there that make me think there will be a serious push on that like we haven't seen before, to try to get it such that you can gamble on your phone like you can in Louisiana or Nevada or someplace like that where it is legal. But as far as casinos, that's probably not going to happen. But I know there are a lot of sports bettors out there who would be really happy to see that legalized in Texas. You saw where Mattress Mac, the furniture salesman from Houston, cashed that giant check at Caesar's Palace the other day, whatever it was, $30 million. And he had complained that to go make his bet, he had to drive from Houston to a gas station in Louisiana, make the bet on his phone right there at the Louisiana border, and then turn right back around and drive to Houston, and really makes no sense. So when we have, so many people in Texas who, of course, gamble in Oklahoma, Louisiana, New Mexico, and of course, Las Vegas as well, and that revenue is leaving the state. And those folks also, whether the revenue is the question or not, those folks also would just like to be able to, exercise their freedom, if you will, their liberty to gamble. And that includes a lot of Republicans who feel that way.
Yeah.
All right. Even conversation about that would get a lot of people to pay attention. Scott Braddock, editor of the Quorum Report. Always nice to have you.
And always great to see y'all.
Thank you, Scott. We'll be right back.
Look outside with live cam, 51 degrees right now. How low are we going to go, Adam?
Well, we'll be dipping down into the upper 30s to right near 40 degrees by tomorrow morning. So keep the jacket, keep the sweatshirt handy and within reach by the door. 53 degrees right now. By 3 a.m. we're at 41. 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, 39. And notice that 10% chance of a shower, just a sprinkle or two. That's it. We'll talk more about rain chances down the line and what we're expecting in just a bit.
All right, did you feel that rumble? 3:32 this afternoon, an earthquake hit West Texas, 350 miles away from San Antonio. But people in the downtown area say they felt it.
Yeah, joining us live over the phone to put this all in perspective, Jana Persley. She's a geophysicist with the U.S. Geological Survey. She's an expert when it comes to earthquakes. So, Jana, what can you tell us about this particular earthquake that we felt this afternoon?
Well, this was a magnitude 5.4 earthquake. It was a shallow event, and it happened near Mentone, Texas. Since about 2020, the earthquakes in the area have been on the uprise. There have been more and more. This is one of the largest ones in the area. And given the size and the location of it, I am not surprised that it was felt all the way in San Antonio.
And is that why, just because of the intensity of this earthquake, that's why it was felt all these 350 miles away?
Yes, it's because of the size and because of the geology as well. The crust, the ground, basically, it's a little bit colder in the eastern U.S. as compared to the western U.S. So earthquakes of this size are felt fairly far out.
So there's a thing, with major earthquakes. People talk about the aftershocks. Are you expecting aftershocks with this earthquake, and could we feel those as well in San Antonio and South Texas?
I do expect aftershocks, and we have been seeing some of the smaller ones already. I think that unless the aftershock is above a magnitude about 4, you will not feel them in San Antonio, but they will be felt close to Pecos.
Okay, magnitude 4, that's the threshold here. So
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so you said that these have become more common since 2020, but to feel it this far away, is that becoming more common, or is that still very much a rarity?
No, the reason why you feel them this far out, it is related more to the size and the geology. The fact that you felt it, this one, it hasn't happened in the recent history, really. Since 2020, this is only a second earthquake of that size in that area.
When we talk about the geology, is West Texas the most susceptible to these earthquakes, or could an earthquake like this happen anywhere, including closer to San Antonio?
So intraplate earthquakes are relatively rare. The issue with most of these events is that they happen on the faults that perhaps have not been mapped, so we do not even know that earthquakes can happen there unless the earthquake happens. In this region where the magnitude 5.4 happened, there have been studies suggesting that the magnitude 5 event in March of 2022 might have been related to an increase in wastewater injection. Whether this event is following the same trend or not, I do not know at this point.
Yeah, you're talking about fracking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about wastewater injection. That's different from fracking.
Oh, okay.
Wastewater injection is you take the fluid from the fracking and you pump it under pressure back down in the ground.
Ah, okay. So it's like what's left over from fracking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jana Persley, geophysicist with the U.S. Geological Survey. Thank you so much for sharing that information with us and helping us better understand why some parts of San Antonio were shaking this afternoon.
Yes, you're welcome. Have a good evening.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. All right, with all that,
Bye-bye.
we actually get to switch over to Adam Caskey, who is very interested in all these things. I mean, you're the first one that was kind of on it in the newsroom, like, hey, we have this is what's happening.
And what was your demonstration earlier? I'm honestly not poking fun of it. I thought it was a great way to think about it, really.
You can poke fun at it if you want. I don't mind.
Well, I did do that, but I'm
kind of
right
like a
now,
dance
I would
move.
like
Yes, so our geology here it's all that rock, right? And it's all very interconnected like this. So if you get an earthquake far away, it'll ripple through the ground and you'll feel it way over there. Whereas the West Coast in California is like this. It's not as interconnected. So an earthquake here, you're not going to feel it over there. So, you can
take the guy out of Worstfest, but you can't take Worstfest out of the guy, huh?
Nope, you're right about that. All right, below average temperatures are going to remain. Even colder by Saturday with temps in the 40s for highs. We're talking highs in the 40s and a bit of dampness with it. Let's start off with our rain chances. I'm not really all that optimistic about rain, and well, we all feel the same in the KSAT12 Weather Center. We're looking at very light periodic opportunities for rain. I mean, a few sprinkles tomorrow morning, 10%. Friday afternoon and evening, 20%. Very light in nature. Saturday, that's our best chance, and that's only at 30% and still looks very light. I think one thing that gets in the way of us actually seeing much in terms of precipitation is our air is so dry near the ground that a lot of it should evaporate before it actually hits the ground. Yes, we'll see a few light showers here and there, but we're not expecting much in terms of overall accumulations. Some mid and high clouds have been streaming overhead this evening. You see some radar returns in New Mexico and West Texas. A lot of that was evaporating before hitting the ground and really just detecting the precipitation up in the clouds. So it looks more impressive on the radar than it actually is at the ground. That's because of this dip in the upper level flow, that short wave, that little ripple. That's going to slide overhead late tonight, early tomorrow and mainly just give us some clouds. So here's the forecast, our FUTURECAST. And notice at 6 a.m., low clouds in place. And yeah, a few sprinkles possible here and there. We're talking very light activity, the kind where you just need a quick 1-2 with the windshield wiper, and that's about it. And then we break out into sunshine by noon tomorrow and into the afternoon, partly cloudy skies. Friday, we get another increase in the cloud cover, and I do think later on in the day we'll have a few spritzes and sprinkles and just some hit or miss, very light showers or just sprinkle activity for the latter part of Friday. 59, that was our high today. Well below average yet again. And our morning low of 42 is below average. I mean, the average morning temperature is 50. The average afternoon high is 71. Tomorrow morning we'll start the day right near 40 degrees, but that means 39 Canyon Lake, Bernie and Bulverde 36, along with Bandera, and Utopia about 39. Here's your 12-hour forecast. The morning clouds leading to afternoon sunshine. By noon, we're at 56 and a high temperature in the upper 50s to right near 60 degrees. And then you go ahead and into the weekend. There's that coolest day, Saturday at 46. That's the best we can do.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
We'll be right back. And news around America, the Mormon Church announcing its support of gay marriage this week. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints issuing a statement calling for federal legislation to protect same-sex marriage. While the LDS Church views marriage as a union between a man and a woman, church leaders say the Respect for Marriage Act is a way to protect the rights of LGBTQ Americans. If the Senate passes the act, it would safeguard same-sex and interracial marriages across the country.
Job cuts have begun at Amazon. The online retailer reportedly plans to cut around 10,000 workers. In a memo, Amazon said the cuts will impact positions within its devices and services team, saying the blame lies with its consolidation of some teams and programs for the layoffs. The company has not said how many employees will be affected by this initial stage, but the workers received notices yesterday and will receive support and assistance in finding new jobs. We'll be right back. We want to take you back out to I-10 in De Zavala. Traffic not quite as heavy as we showed you earlier, where these vehicles are off on the inside lanes there, but certainly still causing a slowdown. And there are more first responders vehicles there on scene helping out with this situation. So again, just a reminder, I-10 in De Zavala, bit of a slowdown as hopefully this wreck clears soon.
Adam.
Tomorrow morning, right near 40 degrees. That means about 39 Stone Oak, 41 Elmendorf and Von Ormy, but Bernie, Timberwood Park in the mid-30s. By the afternoon, upper 50s, and then temperatures fall off from there. Mid-50s Friday, mid-40s for the high on Saturday. A cold start to the weekend. Well, cold all weekend, actually.
Adam, do you realize we worked Worst Fest, an earthquake, and low temperature?